Every year, when we gather with loved ones to celebrate Christmas, we follow a familiar routine, decorating trees, exchanging gifts, and singing carols, and even watching some movies too. But have you ever wondered about the origins of these traditions? Christmas as we know it is far from a purely Christian holiday. In fact, many of the practices we associate with it today have deep roots in ancient pagan traditions. So how did these celebrations become part of the Christian calendar? Well, let's take a journey back in time to uncover the fascinating pagan history of Christmas and how it was transformed by the church. Welcome to the channel, everyone. My name is Florio, and the holidays are upon us. So as such, it's time we delve into some paranormal history of Christmas, Yule, etc. We'll delve into a little bit of stories here for you guys. And today I'm going to be exploring the pagan roots of Christmas and the debate of how the church inserted itself into the holiday. Was the celebration stolen from pagans, or was it just appropriated to make the transition of converting to Christianity easier? The debate about whether Christmas was influenced or stolen from pagan traditions is a contentious one. It's a question that goes to the heart of how we understand the history of Christianity, the evolution of our modern holiday celebrations, and even the very nature of its cultural identity. One thing is clear, however. From ancient pagan celebrations to the rise of Christianity, traditions of old and new were reshaped together to form our current traditions today. So where did it all begin? For that, we'll have to traverse back into ancient times. Ancient pagan celebrations. To understand the pagan origins of Christmas, we need to look at winter solstice festivals from cultures all across Europe and beyond. These celebrations marked one of the most significant points in the year, the longest night and the return of the sun. For many ancient peoples, the solstice was seen as a time of rebirth, renewal, and hope. From the Roman festival of Saturnalia to the Germanic Yule, Christmas has borrowed heavily from a diverse range of pagan traditions, incorporating elements of mythology, folklore, and ritual practice into its own unique narrative. Saturnalia. One of the most well-known winter festivals was Saturnalia, celebrated in ancient Rome back in the day. Saturnalia honored Saturn, the god of agriculture, and was a time of feast, revelry, and gift-giving. Masters served slaves, and the usual order of things was reversed. It was just a little bit of fun, something different for everyone to take part in. It was a festival filled with light, merrymaking, and warmth during the coldest time of the year. Instead of working, Romans spent Saturnalia gambling, singing, playing music, feasting, socializing, and even giving each other some gifts. It was common for them to give each other wax taper candles that were called ceri, and they signified light returning after the solstice. On the last day of Saturnalia, Romans gave their friends and loved ones small terracotta figurines as well, which may have referred back to older celebrations involving sacrifice. There's also an old practice as well to drag a tree into the temple and decorate it, and that goes back to some Greek god sacrifices and stories as well that were related back into the Romans, as Romans adopted a lot of Greek mythology too. The Greeks, the Romans decorated with lights. Light was very important at a time. It was a time of darkness, and they decorated with ivy and holly, and it was very popular in Saturnalia, but also popular north in Yule. The light represented light at the end of the tunnel that was going to return after winters. The solstice is the darkest day of the year, the shortest day of the year, less light of the year. The ivy was strength and stability, and holly was considered a ward against evil. It's interesting that in similar traditions, again, were followed north, and that was in Yule. Yule. Many people associate Yule solely with Christmas, but there's a rich history and meaning behind the celebration that often goes unnoticed. Yule, also known as the winter solstice, marks the longest night of the year and has been observed by multiple cultures across the world. Yule's actually also what I celebrate, as well as I follow old world pagan traditions from like Celtic and Italian customs. The earliest recorded evidence of Yule celebrations date back to ancient Germanic people who believed that the winter solstice marked the rebirth of the sun. Their ancient celebrations were deeply rooted in the agricultural cycles and superstitions as well. As part of some of the beliefs, they believe that the earth goes into like a slumber or a death during winter to be reborn anew again in the spring. As the ancient Germanic tribes migrated to different parts of Europe, their Yule traditions spread, adapting to local customs and mythologies as well. The Celts, for instance, celebrated the winter solstice with feasting, singing, and storytelling, whereas the Vikings held grand festivals to honor their different gods. Each culture added its unique twist to the celebration, but the underlying theme remained the same: the triumph of light over darkness and the hope for longer days to come. Yule was more than just a midwinter celebration. It was a time of communal gatherings, gift-giving, and merriment. The ancient rituals involved lighting fires, singing, and feasting, all of which were meant to bring warmth, comfort, and protection during the harsh winter months. In many cultures, Yule was also a time for divination, where people would seek guidance for the coming year. Yule's significance extended beyond its cultural roots, influencing the way we celebrate modern holidays today. The ancient practices of Yule, such as the Yule log and winter solstice festivals, have shaped the way we experience the holiday season. The Yule log was a tradition of burning a large log to symbolize the return of the sun. The Celts believed that the log had magical powers, and it was often kept burning throughout the 12 days of Christmas. Afterwards, the ashes were used as good luck charms on crops and around the homes in the spring. Today, the Yule log has become a popular Christmas tradition, often symbolizing warmth, comfort, and togetherness. Additionally, other similarities was the god Odin, often associated with winter, was said to ride through the sky on his 8-legged horse, bringing gifts to the people. He's one of a few instances similar to a Santa character across ancient Europe. Additionally, of course, they're practicing decorating again with holly, mistletoe, lighting, and as well, they were decorating trees too with candles and light. But most important this time of the year was the grand feast and quality time with loved ones, even giving small tokens of love and appreciation to one another. From decorating trees to exchanging gifts, many of our modern holiday customs have their roots in ancient Yule practices. Also, popularization of decorating the tree, it really stemmed from Germany most of all, where they would decorate evergreens with baubles and whatnot. And Switzerland also had a god who traveled in a sleigh made of reindeer bones that was pulled by a special white reindeer. There was a lot of different interesting traditions back all across Europe. So many of these traditions all across the old world eventually amalgamated into a singular tradition of celebration that was adopted by the church. But let's explore how we got to that point, where the church took on the holiday celebrations and why. The rise of Christianity. As Christianity spread throughout Europe, the early church fathers sought to eliminate the pagan traditions that surrounded the winter solstice, amongst other celebrations too. But in the 4th century, Pope Julius I realized that it was better to join the celebrations rather than fight against a celebration. People love these celebrations. They look forward to them all year round. So it was really hard to make people give them up and take them away from people. So Julius declared that Jesus' birthday was December 25th, so they could incorporate Christianity into the winter solstice celebration. And he could kind of pull this off because the Bible never says exactly when Jesus' birth date is. There's different scholars who argue different dates, and it's very unlikely that he was born in December, but this decision was made to make it work in favor for Christianity so that they could be adopted into these celebrations. It helped with the transition or conversion of people who did not want to give up their festivals and celebrations of the old pagan world. In fact, you'll find that every pagan celebration was eventually adopted by the church in some way. And I mean, I already did a video on Halloween. I'll probably do videos on all the other ones coming up too, because you'll find there's related pagan celebrations for all of our other celebrations that we do. The debate comes in on whether this was to ease the transition or if it was more of a hostile takeover. Personally, I think because the eventual attack on pagans is why people immediately think of hostility. But I believe at first it was just a quiet way for the transition, as in the beginning, Christianity was the weird offshoot religion that only strange outcasts were practicing. It would be some time before it became so dominant in the world. In the 5th century, Pope Leo the Great, he wrote, "It is not impossible to eradicate all the customs of the Gentiles, but we can bend them to the service of the true God." This statement and others like it suggest that the early church was indeed aware of the pagan roots of many of these traditions and actively sought to incorporate them into the celebration of the holiday. The winter solstice, once a time for honoring the gods, became a time for honoring the birth of Jesus instead. The merger of Yule and Christmas traditions not only changed the way we celebrate, but also influenced the way we perceive the holiday season. The presents the wise men brought signified the gift-giving and celebrations and feasts. There was an emphasis on gift-giving, feasting, and merriment, which was all core aspects of Yule celebrations, and it became integral to the Christmas traditions. The winter solstice, once a time for communal gatherings and divination, became a time for family reunions and holiday cheer. In many ways, the evolution of Yule traditions reflects the complex cultural exchange that has shaped our modern holiday celebrations. We can also recognize the ways in which our modern traditions have been influenced by ancient practices and how these traditions continue to evolve over time. But the church still did often try to push back against pagan customs. As Christianity became the more dominant religion and witch hunts and fears of pagan activities were growing, the church would again try to stop the celebrations of Christmas. There was different moments in time where they were trying to stop certain celebrations of it. Not necessarily about Jesus Christ, but just certain activities. As European colonizers traveled to the new lands, the Puritans and the church were trying to stamp out some of the celebrations, calling them pagan and witchcraft. But people were not happy about that, and they rose up against it, And as people from different cultures moved into new lands more and more, they brought with them their traditions, and they would become angry if they were told to stop. There's even a story where they were trying to stop caroling, which back in the day, caroling was not what it is now. And people got really angry, and then they started breaking into people's houses. So the church kind of had to back off of trying to remove people's celebrations. The church was never successful in trying to wipe out any of these pagan celebrations in the New World, so they just had to kind of accept it and move on. But Christmas really exploded to what it is today because of the influence of the royal families, and especially the Victorian era. Medieval and Victorian influence. By the Middle Ages, Christmas was a complex blend of Christian teachings and pagan customs. Feasts, merrymaking, and the use of candles to symbolize Christ's light became central to the celebrations. However, some of the more rowdy aspects of the winter solstice, like the role reversal seen in Saturnalia, were toned down or moved to other parts of the year. A key moment in the globalization of Christmas came with the Victorian era, when the holiday became a major celebration in Britain and its colonies. It was during that time that many of the traditions we associate with Christmas today, such as decorating of trees and sending of greeting cards, became quite popularized. This was the Victorian era, and as such, Queen Victoria, her mother, happened to be German. So it was common practice in Germany to bring a tree inside the home and decorate it, and that's what she would start doing. And even though the Americans had independence, Victoria had a huge influence on people of the world. And that's why they call it the Victorian era. And because of that, everyone else wanted to have a tree and decorate it as well. So they were copying what, the royal family was doing, which is common. So people flocked to buy trees and decorate them as well. And it's kind of carried on through tradition. This is also a time when telling ghost stories at Christmas surged larger than before, and a lot of this is all thanks to the industrial era and the printing press. But the industrial era is also what led us into the commercialization of Christmas. From ornaments being made for this tree decorating to the invention of Christmas cards, Americans jumped on the chance to make money from the holidays, and things just kind of took off from there. The Pagan Legacy. So, does this mean that Christmas was in fact stolen from pagans? Well, the answer is not exactly. The story of Christmas is one of cultural evolution, blending the old with the new, and weaving together the threads of ancient paganism with Christian traditions, and it continues to bring joy and light during the darkest days of the year, which is the whole point of these celebrations. Today, Christmas is celebrated around the world, with many of its pagan roots still present in rituals and symbolism. By recognizing the ancient roots of our modern traditions, we can appreciate the cultural exchange that has shaped our celebrations today. So the next time you hang a stocking, light a candle, or gather around the Christmas tree, remember the ancient celebrations that shaped this holiday. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and let me know what are some of your favorite traditions that you celebrate. If you've enjoyed this video, also don't forget to like and subscribe as well. And big thank you to all of our members and Patreon supporters. It helps a lot with the channel, and I do appreciate you all. And I hope that all of you are having a good holiday season. I'll talk to you all later. Don't worry about what to watch next because I have linked a video, or if you want to sit and watch things for a little bit longer, a whole playlist on the side here. Go ahead and click those now to keep watching.